Okay. Welcome along to episode 61 of the Strategy and Conversions podcast. I'm Jamie Michael Joseph, and as always, I'm joined by Mr. Mark Tanner.
Hi there. Hi, everyone.
But we did the last episode, and we kind of finished talking about marketing messages. So obviously, you did the whole kind of thing around your steps and talking about, for consistency and stuff like that. There's a kind of a framework. And we kind of, myself, I kind of turned it to marketing, as I do. And we're kind of talking about then just that importance of repetition or the right messaging within your marketing to get in front of the right people. So I kind of mentioned about being in London, being on the kind of underground, being on the trains and keep hearing that kind of warning message, to be alert, any kind of terrorist kind of action or something like that, where it says, see it, say it, sort it. And it's just wherever you go, you're just hearing all this stuff that's just in your head. You get to the hotel, you get home kind of thing, and it's still in your head, It's like that there, even though, look, it isn't on one hand marketing, in one hand it is.
Yeah. That's the things like, if you think about the old Kitchener back in the First World War, and you had that big poster that said, your country needs you. People still know that. And your country needs you. Four words. That's all it was, 4 words with a pointing finger. And it's been used on all sorts of things. And Uncle Sam needs you, or all this kind of stuff. And those 4 words are amazing because people still remember it and still kind of use it to a certain extent, just a simple message, but how well it's stuck because it's so simple. That's why kind of things that have initials or like steps or, see it, say it, sort it, all those kind of snappy little things, people remember them. They're just because the brain, I don't know, I guess the brain just, it sees something that's quite simple, which is easy to remember. But if you had a three sentence long thing to remember, then you wouldn't do it. But those quick phrases, bang.
That's the thing. I think when you were talking then as well, I'm thinking about Nike and their slogan of "Just do it," and it's like everyone kind of knows that, right?
Yeah.
And it's just like it's weird because obviously talking about that, we're talking about kind of marketing messaging and that kind of thing of obviously sticking in people's heads and having that kind of longevity and sticking at it. And we'll get to that whole kind of strategy and kind of like tactical kind of piece, as we go on. But as you were talking then, and as I was kind of saying, there's part of me thinking, okay, look, is it brand? Is that the kind of area that we're getting into? And I'm going to be totally honest here. I think with branding, it's always been something I shied away from, right? And I respect it. I know a lot of guys who deal with branding, but for me, I've always, as much as I kind of look at strategy and we look at putting the right kind of steps in place, it's always been a case of we just get going first, then we'll change it. Whereas I know you've got some other guys, especially from the branding side, and they're like, we'll get everything sorted first, and it's like, look, it depends obviously which kind of side of the fence you're on and stuff like that. It's just like me personally, I like to get proof of concept before I'm all in, and stuff like that to move forward. But coming back, look, is it brand? It is that kind of messaging brand.
I guess it. Yeah, I suppose. I don't know. I mean, when Nike were born, when that whole brand was born, that wasn't part of their brand, was it? Just do it.
I mean, they weren't even called Nike, were they? That's the thing.
No.
They were called Blue Ribbon or something like that.
Yeah. Wow. So did it come about? I mean, did it evolve with people then thinking, "Yeah, we got to get a catchy slogan. Let's try and think one." So did it evolve? So maybe they had that kind of proof of concept first that something was working. People were buying trainers for that they had a particular style of trainer. They had a particular make of the composition of the trainer. It all was catching on, and at that point that they thought, right, we can scale this, so we need to really concentrate on the brand. I don't know how many. I mean, I guess Brewdog started out with branding, didn't they? I guess the branding was kind of the images they had on their cans and that kind of stuff, but nothing. I mean, I know the name. I've never drank any Brewdog stuff.
But just thinking then as well, like there's I can remember reading a book where there are so many companies, like well-known companies around the world that you know of, and what they're doing now is not what they did when they started out. And that to me is quite interesting, just how you can pivot, move around from different kind of industries and stuff like that when you see a kind of gap. Like I think there's something with with Wrigley's chewing gum is that
Right.
they were something like a washing detergent company or cleaning detergent
Mhm.
company, something like that. And I think, man, I may get this story wrong, right? But I think this is how I kind of recall it: is that they had this kind of washing powder, and when you bought the washing powder, you would have a pack of gum as a gift, and it was like
Uh,
the whole kind of baking soda piece or whatever it is, and people were buying the washing powder just for the gum. We kind of turned it in the head to,
Brilliant.
why don't we just sell the gum? You know, and
Yeah.
the thing is, there's something with like Starbucks. Like Starbucks didn't used to sell coffee or something like that. It was like I think they used to sell coffee machinery, and then they started
Okay.
selling the actual beans and stuff like that. But it wasn't the shop that we know it today,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
and stuff like that. And it's like, yeah, again, maybe going off on a bit of a tangent there, but it's really interesting, isn't it? That you know, I guess from what we're kind of looking at with this episode and what we get on to kind of talking about is that a lot of people kind of cut off what they're doing when it doesn't seem to be working, or
Yeah.
maybe they get bored as well, and maybe they're on to the next kind of shiny thing. And I think the importance of this kind of thing is just to say, like, look, whatever it is you're working on, have faith and trust in the process, you know, and follow that whole kind of consistency to get to your goal.
Yeah, and I think there's nothing wrong with that, really, is there? I mean, going back to sort of the night type story when they what did you say were called
I think they were called Blue Ribbon when they first
Blue
started.
Ribbon? Okay, so they obviously had, but they were still in trainers then, weren't they? They were still doing the sports stuff. So they obviously had something, and it's like I mean, you got lots of bands if you think about just rock bands through the ages who changed their names, that changed their names to something else that's become more catchy, and all of a sudden they've taken off. Whether that's been the name change or whether that's just people, yeah, I guess it's part of that psychology. It's happened to a lot of different bands that have started out as something.
I guess it's deeper than the name, it's deeper than the logo, is what they stand for. I
Yeah,
guess is what allows them to pivot. You know, I'm just as soon as you were talking then, for some reason, I was thinking about Prince, and I was just like, you know, you changed the symbol, you know, the whole kind of squiggly kind of thing and stuff like that. And
yeah,
it's like, okay, it didn't change him, you know, nothing about it kind of changed. It was just that kind of thing, and I'm like, okay, yeah, maybe it is that case of, you know, the name doesn't necessarily matter, you know, the colors and the logo and stuff like that, you know, doesn't carry as much weight. It's more about the substance behind it is what you stand for. And that's actually a good segue then into, I guess, what we talk about when it comes to messaging. It comes to copy, you know, kind of sales copy and stuff like that. And I think
yeah,
from the kind of conversations we've had before is that I think when we look at messaging, what we're really talking about here is framing. So we're kind of putting them into a certain kind of frame of them thinking in a certain kind of way.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, I guess it's on one of the I'm not very good at it actually when it comes to copy, but one of the big things about that a lot of copywriters do, they try and condense down copy to as many or as few words as possible. As
Mm-hmm.
copy it right down. Now, I tend to write copy. The copy I write for the clients that I write for is very chatty, so I'm always I don't. Yeah, of course, I'm always trying to make sure that it reads and flows well. Um, but when it comes to things like blogs and stuff, I tend for them to be very, very chatty. And I'm not so much on that marketing uh, wheel, if you like, that I am on the kind of the blog writing and the education. I suppose that's what it is, the education part. But I know for copywriting who write for marketers, really, and strictly for marketers, they are trying to always look for those three or four words that really hit you between the eyes. And I've never that's not a side that I've ever been brilliant at. Oh, I've never tried it really, I guess, but I've never felt that that's the kind of way I write. So I know there's quite a few really good copywriters. I mean, that who are around and do exactly that. They cut it down and cut it down. I mean, this going back to that to you, your country needs you. And I suspect what happened was somebody wrote a whole ream of writing about what your country needed you to do for them and go to the front and volunteer, and I think that they probably just broke it down and broke it down. So what do we really want? And it's like Nike, isn't it? What do you really want people to do? It's just do it. But we'll give you the trainer. Just go out and start running. Just do it. Go out and start playing volleyball or basketball. just do it. And I
And
think that's brilliant when they can get it down to those words.
and I guess that is the framing, isn't it? Because
Yeah,
I think I'm guilty of that. Nike trainers on now. I think you buy into that brand,
yeah, yeah,
and Nike makes you better in some sort of way. I don't know, but I think they frame that kind of messaging. That it's like, look, if you want to do sports and you want to do sports well, you want to be your best, and you want to look your best, you want to feel your best, And there are other sports brands, of course, there are, but I think Nike have kind of got that into their kind of
yeah,
into the world, that we kind of see. I think I mentioned on a on a podcast a while back. I can remember reading this kind of study, and it said that if Nike opened up a chain of hotels, they would still do a great trade. Like people would stay in them because that brand is strong, against with this audience that people can move into. Obviously, doing that as well. I think with Nike, the way they frame that is like you kind of know what you're getting. And I think that's what I'm kind of getting at with the whole kind of messaging thing. Is people need to know what they're getting from you.
yeah,
and that comes into it comes into your brand, it comes into your marketing, it comes into your actual products and services that you offer. And it's like people need to believe in you that you are going to get them the outcome. And your messaging, the more kind of congruent we can be within that messaging throughout what we do, it builds up that know, like, and trust. That people go, okay, I keep seeing these people around, I keep seeing what they're saying. Now they've said something and it makes sense to me. And I buy into these people because I keep seeing all this stuff. The same as, Nike could come out with, a different kind of kit within a different sport to what they're known for. And people will still go, okay, it's Nike.
Yeah. And they've built that around obviously quality and stuff, haven't they? I mean, they're just take their trainers, for example. I mean, they make all sorts of stuff, they clothes and all sorts, but they're well made. They're well put together. They're obviously comfortable. Otherwise, people wouldn't buy them. They're well stitched. So come to clothing. I don't know if I got any Nike stuff. I just wear stuff from years ago. I buy a lot of secondhand stuff, but I only play cricket now.
Just to cut you off on that point, though, don't you think that's strange how that happens? Like, I can remember having a chat. I think it was with my barber the other month or whatever, and I said to him, I can remember when I was young, when I was like late teens, and I was like early 20s, and I would have new trainers all the time.
Yeah,
I'd have new jeans, I'd have new t-shirts and that. And then as you kind of get older, you're just like, it's still fine. The stuff that is still fine. It's weird, isn't it? How that kind of changes. I guess your needs, your desires, your wants to kind of change, and you're just like, I'm happy with what I've got.
But I think that goes back to that framing you were talking about, because obviously Nike are targeting a certain demographic.
Yeah.
They're targeting that demographic. And as you kind of move out that demographic, it's not so important to be wearing Nike or the rest of the stuff. Whereas they are targeting a very, very youngish, sporty audience. And for them to have this, and then Nike come out with the latest thing, and it's even more expensive and it's even better and it's got this and it's got that. People think, I've got to have them. So somebody starts to wear them, and everyone else then says, oh, I've got to have those. So then someone else goes for it as well. So that's their marketing, is they are very, very good at, they've decided exactly who they're targeting. This is another thing about I know we talk about businesses not having a niche, but products or services having a niche. And they've obviously got a set of products, and they know exactly what the niche is for that particular set of products. They got football, they've got athletics, they have got cricket stuff, they've got all sorts of things. They know exactly what they're doing, and the demographic, and that's it. Nike as a company now has built such a big brand that they don't need to niche anymore, because, as you said, they could just move into hotels. And they come out Nike Sport hotels or something, and bang, people would be on them like a shot. But they don't need to, because what they've done is they've taken they've maybe started off and say half a dozen products, worked out who they are for, and gone very heavily into that marketing for that particular product to that particular market.
And I think there's so many good points in what you just said there. I think it's something that gets overlooked so much, is that we've been through on the podcast before. I'm a big kind of advocate of this, where I think so many people out there are telling you to niche down when you don't have to. You don't have to niche your business. You don't need to get into such a small niche where you go, okay, I only do this for that person, and that's it. you can have your business which is broad, but you market your products and services into that niche, you know. And I think
Yes.
Nike is a great example. I mean, look, if you're starting out, if you're small and you need to make some cash and you know you've got a limited budget, then yeah, look, pick one kind of buyer type, one kind of problem solution, one kind of service or product, and give that to them, and you can grow a lot quicker, you know, than obviously if you were going out kind of broad. But as you kind of build, the same as what Nike's done, is that it's brought people into that kind of framing, that messaging where they really like it. Where what's really interesting is me on this podcast now, I'm wearing some Nike trainers, right? There are guys then who, you know, are on the golf course as the kind of amateur golfers and stuff like that. They're wearing the Nike kit and the Nike, you know, golf clubs and stuff like that. And then I can go down the road and there'll be the youths outside the shop wearing the tracksuits and stuff like that.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And it's like none of us are put off by those people wearing it or anything like that. And amongst our kind of peers or whatever it is or how we feel, we're happy with what we've got, right? But it's like, if you look at that, I mean, they're three different buyer types, right?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And age and buyer types, age groups, demographics, everything. I mean, you've got golfers, you're going to get, you've got a lot of more middle-aged golfers than young golfers, maybe. I know certainly in cricket. Okay, so I play in, you know, the league that I play in Bristol and District League. You do get quite a few youngs. You have a smattering of people, but they seem to target different age groups in cricket, because cricket is kind of, there are a lot of young players that play in it, but again, very specific. They've got to come from a kind of a feed. So I'm just sort of thinking on my feet now as to exactly what age they start finding, because they're going to go for footballers of they start much younger than cricketers, for example, and maybe people who go into athletics, maybe, you know, gymnastics. I don't know. It's interesting actually, the different age groups they've got to go for, because in all those sports you're going to have lots of different age groups, and how do they market to those different age groups? That is a question I don't really know. You may know better than I do on that. I don't know.
Yeah, and that comes back again to, you know, when you niche, you don't have to niche within, you know, your business, but you can niche within your products, and you can even niche them within your marketing. You know, so if you take a normal, I think we've been through this before as well, where we talk about, say, like an insurance company, we take like health insurance kind of thing, right? The company does health insurance, like that's the company that comes to us because we do health insurance, right? But actually, when you break it down, it's like we can do health insurance for, you know, people in their early 20s. We could do people starting a family, people retiring, people over 50s. You know, people in relationships. We can target those different people to say, hey, your situation, you can come to us. Like, if you take this as well, I mean, if you ever look at any kind of like Gary Vaynerchuk stuff, you know, like over the years, I mean, he's been very good at kind of pushing this, and it's really good, but most people don't have the time to do it. Where someone like Nike and stuff like that, they have the time, money, resources to be able to do it, right? Now you can do a video. No, we'll do it now, right? We'll do this video, right? But for the podcast, we'll put it out on 7 different channels, right?
Yeah.
But if we were doing it really well, then we would do some extra kind of videos where at the start we would say, hey, LinkedIn followers, check out this episode of podcast. Hey, Instagram followers. Hey, TikTok, you know, all this kind of stuff. And it's like, we could run ads as well then that says, hey, if you're over 45 and you're looking to start a business, you should check out this podcast episode. Hey, if you're, you know, 18 and you're about to start a business, you should check out this episode here. We could be real niche in who we target in different ways. The product doesn't change, the service doesn't change, like that, but that front end changes. What's really cool with that, actually, you know, talking about buyer types. When I talk about buyer types, a lot of people will kind of look at that as saying an avatar. So this kind of your avatar, you buy an avatar.
Yeah,
mate, I can't get this across enough, right? But be a detective, right? Not a writer. Okay, and what I mean by that is that when you're looking at your buyer type, when you're looking at your avatar, whatever it is there, think of it as, right, you're a detective. There's been some sort of crime, and you're trying to piece together, look, what type of person would do this? What type of person are we looking for here? What are their motives? What interests them? You know, so what you're trying to do is get ahead of that person, so you can either, you know, you can catch them wherever it is, you can stop them from doing something again, you know, you can plug that gap. Whereas what happens with the whole kind of avatar thing, And mate, quite interestingly enough, I've been there's a new Dan Kennedy book. So Dan Kennedy's like a bit of the kind of, you know,
Yeah,
the kind of main man when it comes to kind of marketing and direct
yeah,
response
yeah.
marketing and stuff like that. So he had a series of books, like 20 odd books. I think it was called No BS, and then it would say, you
That's
know,
right. Yeah, I remember this.
copywriting, all this kind of
Yeah.
stuff. So the new book is like a condensed version, all the best bits, right?
Ah, okay.
And he actually says in there, and I'm just like, this is perfect. And he said where the whole kind of avatar thing came about from. He says back in like the 80s or 90s or something like that, there was like a teaching on, if you want to kind of work out who your kind of customer is, go to the bookstore, go to the kind of novice writing kind of section, and you will get a book there with kind of workbooks, worksheets in that kind of helps you come up with your characters for your fiction book, for your sci-fi book, whatever it is. And what you're
Right.
coming up with there is, okay, how does this person look? What is it? What kind of world do they live in? What do they have here? And unfortunately, that kind of tactic is what's taught today, where a lot of people are just like, okay, yeah, I just imaginary kind of character comes into my head, and
Yeah.
that's who's going to buy from me. But
Yeah.
it's so much in the whole kind of fluffiness and what they're wearing and all this kind of stuff that it doesn't actually get into the pain. It doesn't
Mm.
actually get into the motives. It doesn't get into, but how do we stop them from making this mistake? How do we catch them? That kind of stuff. And that's why I say, look, think of it as a detective rather than a
Yeah.
rogue.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's a good point, isn't it? And I think you're right. Absolutely right. Because the yeah, there's not enough. And I know when I was doing when I was working a while back, and people talk about avatars, there was too much talk about what do they really love and what do they and yeah, how, like you said, what are they wearing and where do they shop and all the rest of it. And you think, but that's not what you're selling. What you're selling is what problem do they have that is keeping them awake at night. Really, when it comes down to it, it's some people may say, well, it doesn't keep them awake, but let's talk about business. Um,
Yeah.
one of the
What's
things
the
that,
first thing when they wake up? If it doesn't,
yeah, worse that if you've got turnover problems in your business, if you've got challenges and probably stemming from marketing, if you've got problems when your business is not doing, the first thing you wake up is think, how the hell am I going to make money today? That's keeping you awake. It's got nothing to do with yeah. Well, I'll go down to I better shop at I don't know a cheaper store than this one because I'm not making up. That's not what's on their mind is how am I going to make more money? How am I going to be able to pay the bills that I've got coming up at the end of the month? And yeah, and it's just, and that comes back down. I always remember when I was in the entrepreneur circle, and it was always and Nigel Bottrell was always saying there and we've said it without marketing you don't have a business. So the first thing you should always be the first thing you should ever learn as a business owner or get to grips with as a business owner is that you are a marketer. End of story. You might have a business where you write websites, you might be a copywriter, you might sell sandals, whatever. But ultimately, none of that is true. You're a marketer. And if you're not a marketer, and if you don't embrace that and get into it and understand it, then you can have all the sandals in the world, but you won't sell them because you're not a marketer.
yeah, that's exactly, isn't it? And I guess that whole kind of thing again with messaging is that, yeah, if people don't know you exist, if people don't know what they can get from you, if people don't know the problem that you solve, or why they would want to buy from you, then yeah, it's difficult without that kind of messaging. And I think it is a case of looking at different components within that, because obviously I put a post actually on social media yesterday or the day before, and it's something that I kind of mentioned to you a little while back as well, where you get these quotes and they don't always give you the full quote. It just gives you a little bit. And one of it is, a jack of all trades is the master of none. But the full quote goes on to say, but oftentimes better than the master of one. And like what that basically means there is like, look, okay, you may be good at different things, right? At a few different things. And I take myself with that. And it's just like, yeah, okay, I'll hold my own with any kind of expert in any kind of marketing field. So if we're talking SEO, we're talking ads, we're talking websites, we're talking whatever, my skill is that when you add all those together, 1 + 1 + 1 doesn't equal 3. It's that when you combine it and you get that multiple effect, is that it takes it onto different levels, and that's what I think in marketing a lot of people miss, because you would get it where, you could go to an SEO company, and an SEO company would say, yeah, do you know what we do is we help you get, further up on Google, and, we help you get found and stuff like that, right? And just say that you are talking to one of the good companies, because there's a lot of rubbish ones out there, right? But you're talking to one of the good companies, and they can do that. They can really help you get to the top of Google, right? That's awesome, right? Look, who doesn't want to get to the top of Google for certain searches and stuff like that? It's great. It doesn't mean you're going to make any sales.
No.
That's the problem there, is because, look, people can click through. Look, the copy on your website is rubbish.
Yeah, if you've got no substance,
And it's like, and even if you've got great copy, but you don't really have a product or service, or a good product or service that fits, then what's the point? So it's like you need those three things in place. Otherwise, the first one is redundant. But so many people concentrate on the micro rather than the macro.
Yeah. And I think this is where a lot of people miss the message, don't they? We talk about marketing strategy, and we even talk about business strategy. And the whole point about the strategy is that it's interrelated. It is about SEO, but SEO combined with copy, and then SEO and then copy combined with the right message and the marketing to the right people. Do those things in isolation, and it isn't going to work. You've got to have a strategy that brings all of those things together, which is what we do, and then say to okay, so how now are we going to put your SEO up at the same time as making sure you've got this in place? Because it's like a jigsaw, isn't it? If you concentrate on getting one piece of your jigsaw and think, and I know where this goes, and you put that piece into the jigsaw, you still got masses of empty space because you haven't, because that's okay. You can focus on one thing until you go blind, but if you do that, the rest of it suffers. Nothing's going to happen. So you've got to have the strategy is where everything is linked together, and that your SEO works because of this that works, and that works because this is working, and it all comes back down, and it's all working because your SEO is putting up there. And so it's all it's all that, it's that linking that people, as you say, they don't say they don't get. I just don't think they know where to go to actually find it sometimes.
Yeah, I think sometimes there is that part of, that they don't have that education piece, because it's not their bag. They could be great at doing whatever they do, but they don't know marketing. Maybe they don't have the time or patience or anything like that to deal with it, so they can't see that picture. Maybe things are going well, so they don't see that as being a problem. Or it could be the thing, that they do get duped maybe into someone saying, okay, we'll just do this, we'll just do that, and that's all you need, rather than it being, okay, look, this can only get you to this level, and then you need to look at something going on. But that whole kind of marketing strategy piece, I know, from our conversations, that I describe it as connecting the dots.
Exactly.
I think you describe it, when you kind of look at a vehicle, when you kind of look at cars or boats and stuff like that, about getting to the end. And we've also looked at it being kind of like building a house and foundations, and I think building a house actually is a really good example where you go, look, a plumber is really good at what they do, right? But they're not going to build a wall.
Yeah, exactly.
And like the carpenter is good at what they do, but they're not going to do the electrics. And it's like, none of that is any good if you don't have the foundations in place, and none of that is any good if you don't have the kind of architecture, and none of that is any good if you haven't done the research and you have the right planning and stuff like that. But that thing that you said there with the jigsaw, I like that, because when you do a jigsaw, like the first thing you kind of do is you kind of look at the corners and right? That there is your marketing strategy. Is that once you've kind of got that edging done, you've got that frame, and then when you're doing the stuff in the middle, that's the execution. You're building the picture up from your execution, but you're staying within that frame to build the actual picture that you set out to build. Where a lot of people imagine that you just did it in a case where you go, I take a handful from that jigsaw, a handful from that jigsaw, and a handful from that jigsaw. All of a sudden, you're not going to get the picture that you want, right? It's going to be something going to fit together.
Yeah, so you have that reference. Exactly right. Yeah, that's very true. And going back to the house analogy is brilliant, because, like you said, that the person who builds a house has the strategy in place. Okay, I want to build this type of house, so this is what we're saying. The marketing, you want your marketing to do all this, and if you want someone to build, so the person's stepping back. It's not even the architect in some cases. So the person with the idea of how it's all going to look, then he goes and finds out, right, is this going to work? And then if it's going to work, I need, like you said, I'll need all the component parts that will build this house to be really, really strong. But and the architect is kind of the one of the first port of calls. But it's the first of all is that understanding what you want, and that's the big thing, you know. And again, it's coming back to I guess coming back to some of the things we talked about earlier. Yeah, Nike again. They want to be selling sportswear to a certain. So they want to be selling sportswear, and maybe they've got to the stage now where they don't need to focus necessarily. They're just selling sportswear. But there must have been a time, I guess, when they were focusing on a particular type of or types of sportswear without overstretching themselves. Now they're so big they can do everything. But when they started, they couldn't. So they had to focus on what exactly they wanted, and that's how they were going to build. I think that's applicable to sort of to many things. The first thing starts with a focus, and then you expand your thinking as you prove that one thing works, and one thing that actually produces you an income stream.
No, mate, I think Nike is a great example. I need to kind of think of the actual story, but I think this actually teams up a bit with what we're talking about with the whole kind of niche and the messaging is that they kind of go, okay, look, we want to sell to sports people, right? We've got this trainer, it's a running trainer that they sell it to runners, right? But I think they actually got their big break when they convinced a tennis player to wear their trainers.
Okay.
And it moved into like a different sport. And it's like, I think that's something where coming back to the beginning of like the episode and stuff like that, and what I'm talking about is you need to stick at something long enough to see like what's going on. Whereas I think like that situation with Nike, like what they might have done is they could have gone, okay, we're just going to do this kind of running shoe. You know, we've tried it with some runners, we've had some success, but it's not a great business. We're going to just stay niche, we're going to stay local or anything like that, without trying to go different ways. But all of a sudden, as they kind of go and they go, yeah, people want it here, people want football, people want golf, people want this, and they build out those areas where they go, okay, yeah, this makes sense. We can actually move into these areas. We've got the data to prove it. We know that people like our brand. We know that people like our, you know, our products and stuff like that. But why not expand further into that? And that's what I think a lot of people miss out on is that data. You know, through their marketing, through their sales, and through their sort of customer satisfaction, through the customer journey, is that they don't make decisions off of the data. It's more of kind of gut reaction, or that isn't working, or this looks shinier, and they kind of jump. So I guess what I'm kind of getting at with the marketing message here is like, but do you know what? I think it comes back down to those kind of 3 C's that we talk about, where we say clarity, confidence, and courage. It's like, look, you have to have that clarity over what it is that you want, you know, and obviously then, you know, how you're going to achieve it and stuff like that. That will bring you confidence. Once you know what you're trying to achieve and how it's going to be achieved, you've got that confidence then to actually do it. And that gives you the courage to go out and do it, you know, and that's the whole thing there is you have to have that clarity, you know, and I think that's what we're talking about with that kind of messaging is that, you know, if you have the right messages because you have that clarity and confidence in what it is that you offer.
Exactly. And that's, you know, a full circle, isn't it? Yeah. That goes back to my whole, the mastery, you know, the 5 M's of business. And it starts off with the mindset. It's where it all starts. Marketing is the same thing. Is the mindset is, yes, I need to be a marketer, but also it's what am I trying to do? Getting that absolute clear, that clarity is all. You're not focusing on all the other bits and pieces, coming clear, getting a real clear focus on what you want to do. I want to do this. So then it's once you've got that clarity absolutely pinned down, it's then looking, as you say, the confidence thing then is okay. If I do this, if I click all join all these dots, I know I can make this happen. So if I'm doing that, then it's okay. Well, what message do I need to put out? And it's the courage then to go out and back yourself. I'm putting out this message. These are the messages that are going to join the dots that are going to get to where that vision I had originally, that vision of clarity.
Mate, so much. As you're talking then as well, as I'm just like, you have to get your mindset right. You know, like 100%. You know, I mean, going back to like the start of this episode as well, and I said about the whole kind of branding, guys. You know, I said I've never been one for it. Well, look, do you know what? A good few years back, I probably wasn't one on the mindset side as well. You know, you sort of out of me, it made me kind of realize that kind of stuff where, you know, it's like I'd always look at a bit of mindset, of course, but not to the levels where you're kind of, you know, asking questions of why and stuff like that. But like for me, it's that once you kind of have that kind of strong mindset where you know what it is that you want to kind of get and you're confident in yourself, you know, and stuff like that to go to achieve it, you need something to sell. right? Whether that's
Yeah,
a service, whether that's a product, whatever it is, it could be a program, a membership, a course, however you kind of want to, wrap it up and stuff like that, is that you have to be confident in your product or service. And to me, that's where so many people kind of fall down, is that they're either not confident that they can deliver on what they're talking about, or they haven't taken the time to actually work out what they offer. Right. And
yeah, that's so
I'll
true.
give you a classic example of this, just even with myself. Right. Yesterday, I'm talking to someone, got the sports business and stuff like that. Talking with someone where they kind of want something, and they're kind of talking about, what it is they kind of want. And we're just kind of having a conversation, and they kind of say, they say, how can you help? And do you know what? Maybe years ago, I might have been like, yeah, okay, we could do this, we can do that. And I was just honest, but like, I don't know. And it's like, the reason I don't know is that we don't have a set product or service for this. So it would be something that's created around what it is that you have. And it's
Yeah,
like, I couldn't ask them for the business. I couldn't push them into saying, you need to buy this or anything like that, because I didn't have what it was. Whereas if it was a different situation and I knew exactly what it was that they needed and we had it, it'd be like, you need this and you need this
yeah,
because X, Y, Z.
yeah.
And if you don't have
And
this is going to happen.
yeah, and it's interesting because in the coaching world, I mean, we're straying off the marketing thing a little bit, I guess here, but it's true. Going back on the clarity, in the coaching world, you come across so many people, and it's interesting because um, um, yeah, it's so interesting because you get people who are looking for something, right? They come to you, they've gone through a few coaches, and they come to you and I'm looking for this. I really want this. I really want this, whatever this vision is. And you ask them, say, well, okay, so what exactly is it you want? And they're never really sure. They're very hazy, and they change their mind, and she's not really sure. They'll talk about it, and you try and help them as much as you can. But ultimately, I'll come back onto the consistency thing in a minute, actually, because that's a really interesting one. Ultimately, because they don't know what you want, you have to say to them that I can help you achieve this, or I can help you get to this. I can help you with that. But is that what you really want? And ultimately, they try because they tell you that's what they want, and it's not really. And then they go off and they go off and they find another coach because they have never found this answer. So they go and find another coach, another coach. But it's going back to that thing we on this podcast we were talking about on the couple of podcasts ago, was it? Or it could have been the last one about consistency. When people say to me, how do I achieve this goal? Yeah, I want to be a great goal achiever. I want to do this. What are the things I've got to do to achieve this goal? And you say, well, what is it you're trying to achieve? Well, I want to lose. It could be weight gain. It could be weight loss. It could be could be a business thing or whatever. But let's just use weight loss because it's so. I want to lose X amount of pounds in this time scale. And how we and you've talked through the whole cloud. Are they clear on what it is exactly and why they want to do it? Yes, I really, really want to do it. So you say, how do I do it? I said, well, every day. You've got to do something every day, consistency. And they don't like consistency because consistency means that, oh shit, you mean every day? So yeah, every day. Can I not rest? He said, well, you could maybe do 4 days and have a rest of one day, but then you have that pattern: 4 days, rest one day, 4 days, or whatever the pattern is. But that's it for the rest of your life, or for the rest of the time until you reach that goal. And then probably to keep that goal, you've got to do the same. Just carry on with consistency.
You ever you ever heard of a guy in the States called Eric Thomas?
Oh, vaguely, yeah, yeah.
He's a guy, he calls himself the hip hop preacher. But like,
Right,
kind of
okay.
thinks that, he's kind of, he prides himself on kind of being from the ghetto and stuff like that, and being a motivational speaker. But there's a thing that he basically came out with. I don't know if it was originally his or we took it from somewhere else, but we're doing a good 10 years ago. I can remember hearing this, and I see it a few different places around. And he says about that there's this guy, and he wants to be rich or whatever it is. He just say he wants to be like a millionaire, right? That kind of thing. Right? I want to be a millionaire. And he goes to this guru, and he's just like, I want to be a millionaire. Teach me to be a millionaire and stuff like that. And the guy says, look, you don't want it. You don't want it badly enough and stuff like that. So he pesters his guru and everything to the point where the guru says, right, okay, if you really you really do want this, meet me at the beach tomorrow, at 5 a.m. Right. So the guy turns up 5 a.m. Yeah, he's there, he's ready to learn. The guru says, "Come with me." Right. So he walks out into the ocean, gets to about his kind of neck, under the water. He stood next to the guy. He grabs the guy, he puts him under the water. Right. The guy's fighting, he's screaming, everything like that, trying to get out. And like just before he's about to pass out, kind of thing, the guy pulls him out of the water. And he's just like, "What did you want when you were under the water?" He said, "I wanted to breathe." And he said, "When you want it as much as you wanted to breathe, then you'll have it." And it's like that commitment, that consistency is like, that's the thing, isn't it? Like you have to want it. I think we've mentioned that before, like on the podcast.
Yeah.
Like you have to want it. You have to want to put in the effort. You have to want to do the stuff that no one wants to do, to be able to achieve. I think so many people, mate, there is that thing where so many people want it easy.
Yeah, that's the thing. And that's kind of back to the consistency thing. So, on that, you tell people it's consistent, they get a bit bored with your answer, so they go and find someone else, go to another coach. How do I achieve this goal? When the coach goes through all the stuff, okay, what do you want? Why do you want it? Blah, 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 blah. So how am I going to achieve it? Well, you've got to do this every day. There isn't a shortcut. And this is the thing. It's effort. There is everything about life, everything you want to achieve, whether it be better relationships, whether it be better marketing in business, it's all going to take effort. You got to either get a mentor to help you out, or get somebody can help you out, or you learn it, or do both. But you're not going to learn. You're not going to just take a book and think a marketing book and just open the book and say, "I know marketing." Not like the Matrix. I know kung fu. This doesn't happen. You have to read you have to read the thing, and you have to understand it, and then take action on it. That's the whole point. Again, how many people do we? I mean, this is the big thing, isn't it? How many down and outs, if you like, that around now that maybe have degrees and PhDs and whatever they've done, but they've never implemented any of it. So they've just learned and learned and learned and learned. They come out and say, "I've got all this knowledge," but it's absolutely useless until you do something with it.
That implementing part is massive, isn't it? Implementing, execution, that sort of part is just massive. And you're talking there, mate, it reminded me of a Bruce Lee quote where he says something like, I don't fear the guy who just did 1,000 kicks. I fear the guy who's practiced one kick 1,000 times.
And
it's like, it is that thing, isn't it? Just that consistency of, you build up. It's like that kick now has been perfected. That person knows what weight and everything like that. Where the person who did it, 1,000 times just in one go, is that, that they had a burst of energy, they had a burst of motivation. I'm gonna go and do this, but then they stopped doing it. They never did it again. But that person who has that consistency, that effort to go, right, okay, I'm gonna do this today, I'm gonna do this tomorrow, I'm gonna do this the next day. They build up to where I want to be. We've mentioned it all the time, haven't we? That kind of hockey stick, that kind of graph where it's just like, how long does it take to become an overnight success? However many years,
However many, exactly. Just put in that effort. I mean, martial arts are brilliant for that discipline of just the same action over and over and over. And it's interesting when I used to play hockey. We had some kids. I used to play hockey in a kind of a sports place. We had a sports, and there's a hall of kids there, and they're probably, I don't know, 6 or 7 year olds, and I can't remember what martial art it was, but they were training in something, and their action was just to belt down and just be pushing up with their elbow, and they did it for an hour, and they were just doing constantly for an hour, and the guy, the Dan, if you like, was walking around and just giving me little pointers about their elbow was slightly low, they need to be right up there, and I just thought that must hurt like hell after that hour. But they just all did it exactly. They were in time almost to the millisecond. It was always, and it was incredible. And you just think that discipline is just phenomenal, and that's what you need.
Word. Yeah, that's the big word, man. I think that's the best kind of thing to end this episode with. It's just saying that you need the discipline.
Discipline.
It's just like put it in place. It doesn't matter. Like in that consistency episode, you kind of mentioned about a marathon and stuff like that. And it's like, if you're training for the marathon, it doesn't matter if it's raining outside, you're going out to run. And that's the same thing within like business, the whole kind of discipline. That if you've been marketing on a channel and you haven't been getting anything from it, like, continue marketing. Just change the tactics a bit. You don't need to
Yeah,
stop marketing
but
or anything
continue
like
it
that.
exactly. Continue
It's like
doing it.
that discipline to keep going. If you've got, 5, 10 knockbacks or something like that, ask yourself, look, why is it? Is it a case of they're not the right kind of buyer type? Is it a case of my messaging, my framing isn't right? Is it the offer? Is it the service that isn't right? And I think that's where we're kind of end things. And maybe in the next episode, we'll pick up on that offer, and maybe creating like the irresistible kind of offer, or that kind of powerful offer that people want. And
I
we'll look
think
at that.
I think that's brilliant because what we get that's because it doesn't matter what's happening around you, just do it. There you go. That's nicely
I
get.
love it, mate. We'll end it right there on that one, mate.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah,
We'll steal
Mark,
that
it's
one.
been a pleasure.
Yeah, as always. Thanks
Talk to
very
you
much.
next time.
Yeah, okay. Cheers. Up.